In Wisconsin, Todd, do you know how to tell if you're in a small town?
No.
It only has one bar.
Oh, that's small.
Hello and welcome to Best Motorcycle Roads. I'm Tom.
And I'm Todd. We have over 65 years of combined motorcycling experience and 30 years of planning and riding motorcycle trips. We're here to share with you everything we've learned over those years.
Our goal at Best Motorcycle Roads is simple. Make your next motorcycle trip the best it can be. We'll dive into technology, planning, packing, and all the tips and everything in between.
From essential prep to unforgettable routes, we've got you covered.
Before we kickstart today's journey, we ask you to sign up for our BMR Rider Alerts. It's our way of keeping you in the loop with the latest rides, tips, and stories. We promise no spam, only the essentials to enhance your motorcycle adventures. Join the BMR crew today. We'll put a link in the show notes. This segment about motorcycle gear reviews and tips we call the Toolkit. Today we're going to talk about multi-tools and first aid kits in the toolkit, Todd.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've talked, I think, about first aid kits before, but not too much about multi-tools.
Yeah.
You know, and I think everyone's pretty well versed on them, but they are handy to have in a tank bag or nearby. It just seems like something always needs to be loosened, tightened, cut, opened, put back together, cut off.
Yeah.
And man, they're pretty handy these days. Like even some now, you know, have all the bits. You can have bits and ends and wrenches. There's some that even have like a, an adjustable wrench. So it's really good to at least have a toolkit and have it in a place where you can kind of grab it close. You don't want to have to unpack everything to get it out. So a lot of the bags, if you don't have a tank bag, a lot of the bags have little pockets on the sides, and those are great places to put something like that. With that, I always carry a little bit of paracord too, because it seems like those two can go hand in hand. And then, go ahead.
So I used to have a multi-tool. I lost it at some point.
Sure.
Do you have any recommendations on brands or
King of the Road,
size,
of course, is Leatherman. You know, I mean, they're kind of the one.
Yep.
The Wave is probably one of the really nice ones. But you can get a cheaper one too. I mean, you can get a pretty cheap multi-tool for $25. You know, even at a box store for home improvement, or of course online. But yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to spend a lot. Most of the time, you know, the knife will be sharp enough the first time you use it is when you need it.
Right.
And the pliers are usually very good enough. So, but yeah, a little bit of wire sometimes is nice too. You can kind of fabricate a little cinching, piece and
Zip tie?
a zip tie. Yeah, you can pull a zip tie tight, cut off the edge.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you want to spend the bucks, you know, Leatherman has some really, really nice ones, but there's a lot of other one, Gerber's, kind of mid-range to just kind of generic.
So I should avoid the Harbor Freight tools?
I'm a huge fan of Harbor Freight. What are you talking about? No. I mean, I think the difference really is probably how long the blade's going to last. You know, if you're just using it for this and it's the emergency tool, I don't think it's a problem.
Okay.
Yeah. And then first aid kits, I think we've talked about these a while, but boy, it is nice. It seems like once in a while it's getting a cut or a scrape or a scratch, get it cleaned up at least kind of till you can get back to the hotel or wherever you're staying that night. You just never know. It's pretty cheap to have a decent first aid kit, and man, does it make a big difference if something happens.
Yeah, I know I've got one in my bike all the time. Ride-wise is the section we focus on planning and safety tips. So today for planning and safety tips, I just wanted to focus on, since we're talking about Wisconsin, just a couple of the kind of hidden gems maybe. One of those would be like the Womandee Valley River roads. It's in the northwestern corner of Wisconsin in Buffalo County. It's really like twists along river banks and steep bluffs, and what's really cool is there's only one stoplight in the entire county, so you can just really enjoy a nice peaceful ride.
And this is kind of up where Wisconsin, Michigan, and Minnesota meet, right?
Yes.
That's what you're talking about? Okay.
Yep, very nice up there. And if anybody's into like wildlife and birds, the Horicon Marsh.
Okay.
That's it, like east central Wisconsin.
All right.
Just tons of birds that they've got, boardwalks that go through this big marshy area. But the roads there, you've got a mix of like scenic back roads, country highways. It's perfect for a nice relaxed ride. I would just, and if you're into that, you can stop at the they've got an education center there
nice.
at the Horkin Marsh. So just a neat, unique ecosystem that you can find birds and wildlife there that you can't find any place else in the
wow.
state. So that's just something to consider if you're into birds
Nice.
and things.
The
Yeah.
next segment is what we call the mile marker. It's our story segment. So as we continue through mile marker, it's our top 5 motorcycle roads in Wisconsin today. We're in our 3 of 6 series of Midwest top 5 roads per state. So I don't know if this is controversial for us. I don't think it is, but I think Wisconsin might have the best roads in the U.S. pound for pound across the way. If I had to pick one state and one state only ever did ride-in motorcycles in, I think I might pick Wisconsin. It might not be the total top 5s of the, but boy, the mix is quite impressive. So we'll talk through some of that now. At number 5, we kind of have a ride that goes from Eau to La Crosse, and then back through while you're doing that is the Black River Falls. And it's nothing too special, but it's just, it's one of these places that really just, the highways, which are the main roads, and some of these county alphabet roads are really good. Just central Wisconsin, forest, rivers. And one of the best things about Wisconsin is the small towns. The best part of this is probably the Black River State Forest ride kind of to the Mississippi, which is at La Crosse. Kind of hitting highways 12, 53, 95, and then any of the alphabets that you want to ride around, which we're going to chat about later, actually. But some fun places to stop. The Norski Nook in Aseo for a piece of pie. Sand Creek Brewing Company is there in Black River Falls, so that's a local brew. And then La Crosse on the river has some really great options, and one of them that's really cool is called the Waterfront Restaurant and Tavern. So just a great, La Crosse may be just that like iconic Wisconsin town. It's got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it really
the
does.
Beer, the river,
Yeah.
a bunch of dudes. No, that'd be whoa there. Yeah. Number 4 is the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest Ride. So that's near where you were talking about. That would be just a little bit south, in between south and western north part of Wisconsin. So lots of dense forests like you were talking about, and even rolling hills. And then once you get kind of that central area, we're talking about the bird sanctuary. It's a collection of small lakes up there. We're talking about like the towns of it's north of Tomahawk. Lake Tomahawk is kind of the big one on the south side, and then Eagle River, Boulder Junction, all the way up to Ironwood, kind of in that same area. What a beautiful ride. Not a lot of roads, but the roads you're riding on are just interesting. So that would be like Copper Falls State Park. There are some waterfalls actually in that area. The Pines Restaurant in Mercer is a great place to eat, as well as the Pine Tree Supper Club in Tomahawk. So those areas are just really nice. You can avoid some of the major highways, and you're just kind of tooling through these old towns. And I don't know, I've always enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Number 3 for us is riding the alphabet, and that's kind of ambiguous, but it's one of my favorite things to talk about is just exploring the lettered county roads. All the roads, all the county roads in Wisconsin are all letters. So we always call it riding the alphabet. And that's mostly in the southern west corner, I would say. When you get north more, there's just not quite as many roads that you can kind of explore on, I would say. But you get all of the, I guess the iconic dairy land is what I think of when I think of this part of Wisconsin. Rolling farmland. I mean, you'll see the wildest. You'll just come down through in a valley, and one side will be a person's house, and on the other side you can see it's a dairy barn. And I mean, they're probably 40 feet apart, and you're driving through the middle of it. Just quaint little towns, lesser known scenic routes. Some options here is, and we've done this for, is loop from A to Z, so you can literally ride on A then to Z, and everything in between. That's around Monroe. Again, those farm views. Bogmeyer's Cheese Store is also in Monroe, and they famous for this Lindbergh sandwich. So just kind of an old school Wisconsin thing. And then spotted cows, if you're looking for those, you can find those in a small town on the New Glarus, of course, which is New Glarus Brewing Company. if you're not from around there, just note like New Glarus like only sells beer in Wisconsin. I think
right.
still.
Still.
So like you can only buy some of these beers in Wisconsin. So you'll see a lot of people going across the border to go to bars to get those beers. But it's a cool little brewing company. It's kind of cool that they've kind of kept it in state, not worried about kind of going crazy. So
yeah, and I think they might be 100% employee owned as well.
Oh really?
I think so.
Oh interesting.
I think so.
Yeah. You can't forget the Wisconsin Great River Road. That's our number 2. Right along the western edge of Wisconsin. Just again, I mean, I keep talking about these towns, but you ride through these towns, and we've rode through these a lot, like over the holidays at different times, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, and these places are just kind of buzzing. It's just Americana. So kind of La Crosse, Alma, the Great River Bluff State Park is something along there. There is a Mississippi River Museum in La Crosse. There's the Harbor View Cafe in Pepin, and that's got, you can eat on a deck overlooking the river. And then Buena Vista Park in Alma, Wisconsin has just some of the most amazing views. Just can't get away from those if you're looking for like photography and things like that. And then number 1, I guess, is less a road and more an area again. And I just love the Driftless Area. It's just a unique place on Earth. Basically what happened, or what the story is the glaciers never touched this area. So it's actually Wisconsin, a little bit of Minnesota, Iowa, and Illinois. If you can kind of imagine a kind of a oval. But the topography of these areas, especially in Wisconsin, just known for steep hills and deep valleys. And I think when we started talking about pound for pound best state to ride motorcycles in, some of this is because of that. I mean, it looks like it's not a full mountain. I mean, I get it, but it's similar. It feels like it. Wildcat Mountain State Park is there. I don't know if you've ever heard of Kickapoo River, and then also the towns of Viroqua and Gaze Mills are 2 really great places. And we can kind of highlight like if we were looking at highlighting the Driftless Area, what I would recommend is starting La Crosse, go to Gaze Mills, Wisconsin. There's Wildcat Mountain State Park. You can go to that on Highway 33. And then Wildcat State Mountain to Viroqua. Viroqua's kind of middle of the southern Wisconsin. That's Highway 131.
Yeah.
And then Viroqua to Gaze Mills. Gaze Mills is just bluffs. And then the best time to ride is always in the fall, because it's also when Wisconsin apples are out. So you get to Gaze Mills, it's kind of the apple capital of that area. So I don't know. I mean, when you go up there in that season, you can stop and get cider. You can stop and get apples. There'll be people selling, like apple pie, mini apple pies alongside the road. It's fun.
That's fantastic.
And Wisconsin is just a bunch of fun people. So
yeah, I've seen signs for Kickapoo.
Yep.
Yeah, driven through a lot of that area, but maybe haven't stopped at the river.
Yep.
But yeah, I couldn't agree more that anywhere you go in Wisconsin, fantastic roads.
Yeah.
Scenery, wildlife, just amazing views over lakes and rivers and bluffs, and man.
And you're going to see all these roads we talk about are really on the westish side. Now, there's things to see on the other side. I mean, there's Green Bay and there's Milwaukee. So there's clearly things to do in those areas. But for me, unless I was driving up to Michigan, it's just not quite as good of views. I mean, I think we're going to talk about one here coming up that might be the exception. But I would say for motorcycle riding in general, stay to the west and north. If you just crescent around, just stay away from, for me, Madison, Green Bay, and Milwaukee is just, it's cool area, but it's not for, I didn't enjoy riding motorcycles.
Yeah, I mean, it's no wonder that Harley Davidson is,
oh my gosh,
is in Wisconsin. There's so many great places to ride.
I don't know if it's the cold or the beer or the what, but Wisconsin is the most unique inventors around, because also you start to look at like history of tractors. There's tons of history of tractors also there too. So the podcast can be found on bestmotorcycleroads.com/podcast. All the information you need will be there, but you can subscribe on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple, Pocket Casts, and YouTube.
This is the interactive segment. We will be looking for input from you. We want you to send us your questions and suggestions for roads, topics, and anything else you have on your mind. Today's roadside Q&A comes from Manny, and I picked this question because he was asking about Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And he said for two-up riders who prefer a more relaxed and scenic experience, what are some of the hidden gems in Wisconsin? You know, breathtaking views, interesting stops, and that sort of thing. So, honestly, for two-up riders, you got to talk about Door County, right?
100%.
I know that it's probably not where we would go, but
No.
But for two-up, I would definitely say make your way along the eastern kind of.
And that's the thumb of the mitt, right?
Yes, yeah, the eastern shore, Door County. It's that coastal byway. Juts out into Lake Michigan.
Yep.
And there's just really just stunning views along the way, and little towns and villages. Ephraim, Fish Creek.
Yeah.
There's lots of lighthouses along the way.
And that is cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if they call them beaches. I don't know. It's not. It's a rocky beach.
It's a rocky beach. Yeah, I agree. And state parks. I mean, there's lots of state parks up there. And then, of course, you know, all the restaurants and things that you have in Door County, and they're famous for their cherry products. So definitely go.
I mean, and it's fun there, right? But it's also just a lot of Milwaukee, Madison, Green Bay folks rolling up there for the weekend. So I think I would, if you have the time and the time off, I would recommend a lot of these maybe like during the week if you can. Would you say?
Yeah, there's definitely more traffic on the weekends.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's wide open spaces.
It is.
And it's pretty vast, but
Yeah.
it does get crowded, you know, on the weekends.
Yeah.
You know, the roads would. And then another, not exactly a hidden gem, but I would say Devil's Lake State Park. There's like a 500-foot bluff that overlooks the lake, their Devil's Lake, and that's called Quartzite. I think it's Quartzite Bluff. Yeah. Or you can go to Peninsula State Park. It's got a kind of a coastline along the Eagle Bluff Lighthouse. So yeah, I would take a look at those, and you know, you get everything with these roads. You get scenery, you get interesting stops, you get you know, places for couples to go. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, and I mean, say it's easy riding too. Like there's not it's not technical, which is kind of nice sometimes when you're two up.
Yeah.
You know, and lots of places to stop.
That's a great point.
Shop.
Yeah.
You know, so bring the trailer.
Right.
Now it's time for the last mile. This is the way we close out the episode with our reflections and kind of things that we thought of. So, what are you thinking, Todd?
Well, I just have to say that much like Missouri, Wisconsin is just a state you can't go wrong for riding motorcycles. Get yourself lost if you want. You don't necessarily have to follow a route. Just amazing scenery. They've got lakes, they've got state parks, winding roads, overlooks, the Driftless Area.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic place for riding motorcycles, for food, for small towns, for breweries, for cheese, for cool people.
Curds.
Cheese curds, yeah.
Both.
Yeah.
They have both kinds of cheese.
You're right. I just cannot recommend it enough. And if I wasn't living in Iowa, I may live in Wisconsin just for that reason alone.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would also say, you know, like, you know, this is all about motorcycle roads, but if you get a chance, check out Driftless. Just Google Driftless a little bit. It is so interesting. There's a documentary. They were they were working on making a second documentary, and the guy actually that was kind of leading it passed. So I'm not sure where the status of that is, but it's fantastic to learn, and it's just some of the most unique on Earth, actually. I mean, I know one of them, and I maybe have talked about it before, but there's some, they call them ice flues. It's like underground ice caves that shoot air up, and it comes out of these limestone flues at like 33 degrees, and one just variety of flower grows there because it's like almost like an Arctic flower that grows there. It's wild, man, just so wild. But you know, we've talked about the you know, the Great River Road in Wisconsin. We've rode it so many times, but it's awesome. Like every time I ride it, I'm like, this is just awesome, you know.
Yeah.
And I close my eyes and I think about it. It's always the bluff and the road and the railroad tracks and the river, you know, like, and it's just unforgettable, but yet at the same time, you can't get enough of it.
Right.
And I think for me, and that's probably why we leaned heavy to the west side, but the west side is amazing. I mean, you can see all the stuff on the east side with a car or a bike, almost doesn't matter, but boy, the west side, enjoying that on a motorcycle, every so often just kicking off on one of these alphabet roads It's so amazing. It just kind of feels like you're in two different places. So.
Yeah, agreed. And it's so crazy that I've lived here for 35 years. I didn't even learn about the Driftless Area until just a few years ago.
It's a big secret. Like it's the best kept secret that no one's trying to keep secret.
Yeah, I don't remember learning about that in school.
Well, and you went to college in the Driftless.
Right.
So
and never heard of the Driftless until just a few years ago.
Yeah.
And when you know about it, you see things.
It's amazing.
It's so cool.
If this episode revved up your day, don't keep it to yourself. Like, subscribe, and share it with your crew. We're all about the thrill of the ride and the bond it creates.
Keep the spirit of adventure alive, and remember, bikes, friends, and endless roads, the stories ride forever. Take care.